Welcome. It is time for Hug Nation. My name is Halcyon, and it is an honor to share this time of recalibration with you. A weekly reminder to be our best and highest selves, to recalibrate to gratitude and love. Thank you. Before we get too deep, let's get present. So let's just take a deep breath together in through the nose. Feel your body stretch as you inhale. We practice becoming present to discipline ourselves and become aware of the difference between experience and thought. In this moment, be aware of your body. Be aware of sounds. And then be aware when you have a thought, which is not a sensation, but a story that you bring into the now and then create a secondary experience of that story. A little bit of nervousness or worry about something that may happen. Or a little bit of joy as you remember something wonderful. I got to meet for the first time a friend's 9-month-old baby yesterday. I can think about those wondering eyes, those blue, deep eyes, and I can bring that story into my now and wash the now with joy and marvel and wonder. Or I can think about the story about the project that I need to have done by the morning, and how many hours in the day, and all the concern and worry and what ifs, and I can bring the now and make it about stress and anxiety and doubt. But if I practice and I experience what is to be experienced in the now, as Byron Katie says, woman sitting in chair, what is real in this moment? Then I can start to experience the stories with a little bit of detachment and be an active participant. Actively choose how I want to feel moment by moment. And then from that place, I can marvel in all the miracles that are in the now, all the gifts waiting just to be appreciated. Thank you, universe, for all of this magic. Help me to see it. Help me to appreciate it. Fill me with love and joy so I spread love and joy in the world. Amen. Welcome. Oh my goodness. So we're now several weeks past Burning Man, and the world is trying to get back to normal. Luckily, hopefully we'll never do that. And one of the things that I've kind of been exposed to or gotten pulled into in the last week or so is arguments or debates or statements being very negative about Burning Man. And sometimes people will actively try to pull me in like, hey man, you say it's so great, you talk about this, but what about blah, 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 or why don't you watch this video? And first of all, there was a time in my life when I loved to debate. It was like, like boxing. I wanted to win. I wanted to show that my verbal pugilist, is that the word? My verbal banter and fighting styles were quick-witted, and I could just, embarrass my opponent. And then eventually I was like, opponent? If two opponents are talking, then nobody's listening, and it's a waste of time. I just have no interest in trying to demonstrate a better argument. That's living in the realm of logic, and it doesn't interest me nearly as much as it used to. I'm much more interested in the realm of heart and knowledge more than belief. And some of the arguments are that people bring up negative things that have happened, plug and play camps, or bicycles being stolen, or assault, or theft, and one argument I heard was that, people just take it as an excuse to be all entitled and act like, a-holes. And I was like, you know what? I kind of think of Burning Man a lot like the Bible. Both can be tools and used by many people to get in alignment with their best selves. And also used by many people to justify being jerks. That doesn't mean that no matter how many jerks you might find, that Jesus was not a badass. And the playa is not a place of transformation. Yes, you're right. There are examples of bad things all over the place, but I'm much more focused on the cone. I'd much rather focus on these magical transformations that I see all around. One argument that I heard that was brought up to me a number of times, and I hear all the time, is that, sometimes people say, people say the Burning Man is all about the principles about, changing the world, and here we are all focused on one place in the desert. And I'm, well, first of all, the principles don't talk about activism. They talk about responsibility, and they talk about expression. It's very much a personal shift in responsibility, and then that responsibility acting that to your community. Civic responsibility, self-reliance, those kind of things. So it doesn't really say you need to now take what you've learned and change the world, or this is a place where you learn how to be an activist. But the participants sure say that, because the experience that many of us have shifts our trajectory into a place where, we find ourselves changing the world, or desiring to change the world. Ideally, just being ourselves and having the effect of changing the world. And the reality is that this shift that happens does happen in the middle of an incredibly hedonistic, indulgent vacuum of the desert. Could that money have gone to soup kitchens? Yes. But there's something about, feeding fish and teaching how to fish. And I think that what the playa does is it doesn't teach people how to fish. It makes people realize that there's enough fish, or it makes people realize that they're a fisherman. And that is huge. This is an argument or a debate or a defense that I've kind of had to go through for a long time, because very early on, years and years ago, when I started to discover the internet and Burning Man, it became a thought to me, or a belief, that the biggest barrier in my life to being a good person in the world was my lack of self-love. And that if I worked on loving myself, that I would be a more loving person, and that would be a good thing to do for the planet, is to be self-centered and try to figure out my issues and make myself aware of all of my hang-ups and that stuff. And something that I like to call it inner activism. Inner activism. Working on the self, figuring out your hang-ups so that then you get clear, and then you can be driven from the heart instead of the head. Because the challenge is, even if you think, I'm going to make the world a better place, your vision of what is a better place, your beliefs about what is wrong, is very limited. It's coming from your conscious experiences, which is, for the most part, taught to you by institutions that are probably responsible for those problems. So, every tyrant in the world, throughout history, maybe not everyone, maybe there's, some evil person from a movie, but most people that we consider to be evil, in their minds, were trying to make the world a better place, trying to save us from the wrong people, trying to cleanse the bad things, trying to elevate the doctrine of the divine. So if you are in a position of saying, I should fix the world, and I know what to do, be careful. That's a dangerous path. However, if you try to cleanse all your hang-ups and all of the social things and realize, what is true about my belief in the world, and then act in an alignment with love, with your values, hopefully are things like honesty and respect and loving one another, which is that, golden rule place where so many faiths overlap. And so I was like, well, I'm going to try to do that, and I'm going to do it publicly on this new thing, the internet. And so, I even had it on the front page of the site, cockybastard.com. If you can't love yourself, how can you love others? Of course, if you say you love yourself, you're going to be called a cocky bastard. And I got a lot of crap for that. You know, I was doing Hug Nation and doing Cocky Bastard, and people would say, like, you know, maybe you should spend a little bit more time in a soup kitchen and less time hugging yourself. You know, make a real difference in the world. And I was like, I'm not saying I shouldn't do soup kitchens, but it's like, I don't think that's where the real transformation happens. And so I started, you know, really diving into things like gifting and the Burning Man principles, and really gifting was a big one, and then gratitude through my grandpa, and realized that through focusing on those things and questioning the other things of what I thought success needed to be, or what I thought I was supposed to be, or what I needed to have, that when I focused on gifting and gratitude, I realized that the things that gave me deep joy was service and giving of my gifts. And so without trying, what should I do? I started realizing what I wanted to do. And I started offering help more. And I started realizing that the old me, my mom told me, she goes, there was a time in our life when if we needed a ride from the airport, we wouldn't even think about calling you. Because you would be like, I have so much I'm supposed to do. I know so much. It was like so my stuff. And now when I get a call from a family member that needs a ride at the airport, I'm like, if I'm free, I'm like, yes! An easy opportunity for me to feel better because I get to do something nice for somebody else. Which then led to First Saturdays, without meaning to, just trying to find easy ways to do good. And so now we have this charity that's running on over 3 years. And just briefly, what we do is we get together in a park or a parking lot, and we assemble all the clothes that we have donated, and we take all these donated clothes and we separate it by men's and women's. And then we assemble care packs filled with clean socks and toiletries and soap and toothbrushes and all sorts of stuff like that. And then we get in a circle, and it's called the Circle of Love. And we talk about the world that we want to live in. And then we go downtown and we hand things out and we give things. And the experience of First Saturdays, to me, is like this huge, like, I have no doubt about the benefit of Burning Man, because the things that I learned there got me to this place where I desire to do First Saturdays. When I graduated from college, I worked as a counselor for emotionally disturbed boys, and it was, you know, good-hearted work, but it took so much out of me. And it took me 15, 20 years to figure out that when you do service from a place of gifting and light and love, as opposed to believing you need to solve some terrible thing, what you should do from your mind, you can stay energized and be a everlasting, replenishing source of light. So when we do the Circle of Love, what we talk about is like, hey, we don't have answers to give to people who are lost. We are not better. It is not more successful to work in an office for 80 hours a week than it is to be dirtier than we think is okay. One is not better than the other. This is simply an opportunity in this moment to have an interaction with a brother or sister that we have closed off. And by doing so, have limited our world and limited our hearts and limited the experience of the world. So these clothes, these care packs are props to facilitate an opening. We even wear name tags because Grandpa taught me that. He wore a name tag every day. So to open the world a little bit. Just lets people know, hey, I'm open to being closer to you. And so we do that gifting from this kind of theme camp mentality of we have something that we'd like to give you. Not because poor you, but because would that make you happier? Yes, because that will make me happier. And that shift is transformative. Could I have served in a soup kitchen back in the day? Sure. Would I have had the mentality that allows me to serve in this way now, and then do so, talk about it, and invite people, we generally get 50, 60, 70 people that come to volunteer because they are craving that kind of connection. That is so amazing. That, to me, is, say what you want about Burning Man. It was the solvent that was able to dissolve all the stuff around me that let me see it's not what I should do. It's what my deep, true divine self wants to do. And that power of want in that deep way of like, I want to be in purpose, I want to be more in alignment, is a never-ending source, as opposed to that motivated by guilt or shoulds or whatever it is that gets you to feeling like, oh, I'm guilty, I'm enjoying so much, I have to do something else. So I totally get the arguments that Burning Man is this party in the desert that we, why don't we use that energy for better things? Except that it's an investment, and it is a demonstration, and it is a clear mirror to the kind of people that we can be. And my experience has been that change not only changes me, but it changes people around me. Not because I feel like I should. I mean, I see these beautiful people in the chat room. Some of you guys, many of you have been here many times, and I feel like we gather here today not because I've done some amazing job marketing, but because I'm just trying to say something that resonates with truth, and people go, yeah, me too. I didn't make a convincing argument like your bottom line is going to be benefited if you learn these 12 principles. Now, what's interesting is that I'm shifting into a time in my life when people are asking me, how can we improve the bottom line if we embrace these principles? Because many, many people are learning that workforce, individuals, teams are driven not just by their paycheck. They're driven by purpose. They're driven by that desire to connect. And if you feel like your work is contributing to your purpose, then it's the productivity goes through the roof. So one of the things that I'm working on now is trying to figure out, how do we have a what is the vocabulary for that? What are the metrics for that? Because even if the CEO believes, oh my gosh, this is so good, it's so obvious that the office is just buzzing because we value one another as human beings, you still have to kind of make that case to the board. But I think that's why this process and this learning, there is value. Even you can't judge it by the brightness of the LEDs, the excitement of the party, and the skimpiness of the outfits. Now you see those things, and it's an easy thing to dismiss. But until you it's like saying that a woman is judging her character based on the size of her breasts. They're awesome. They're magnificent. They're hard to ignore. But that's just getting you to sit still and talk to the person long enough so that you can hear, hopefully, what they have to say. Not that I don't listen to, oh man, that was a terrible metaphor to use. I wish I didn't. One of the things that made me think about that is that, so it's not just me going, oh cool, I did my little homeless thing, therefore all of Burning Man is beneficial. This weekend I participated in something called Coastal Soul, which is a group based in San Diego, North County, that has adopted the Oceanside Pier, and so people get together and get little wands, little pickup wand things, and scour the beach, and this is my little action shot with my little picker-upper deal, and pick up cigarette butts and pieces of styrofoam and pieces of all sorts of stuff, Band-Aids, and all sorts of things. It's amazing, actually, how much is on the coast that you don't even see. It's like if once you start looking, it's like ding, 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 ding. But you just, you have to open your eyes to see it, which isn't that kind of true about so many things? Like so much of the world can just go right by until it's pointed out to you, and then you can't stop seeing it. So I had this experience over the weekend, which again was an uplifting experience. It was an experience not of, oh man, like, you terrible littering people, how we have to pick up after you. It was more like, hey, let's beautify our beaches. And for me, it was kind of a thing of like, look, this is very symbolic of this mentality shift that I think is going on so massively, which is that we used to judge at the end of our, well, not the end of our lives. That's when people finally get it. But earlier now, people are getting that, oh, right, it's not just about the bottom line. It's about the relationships, it's about the connection. And the internet has done this massive perspective shift where the world is connected now. So if you throw something off the shore of your ocean, it's connected to another shore. Everything is connected. Every person is connected. Electronically, literally, spiritually. And so picking up your trash is picking up the trash. It's cleaning the whole. And as more and more people start to feel that and see that and act from that place of, oh, I'm picking this up not because I'm angry at you, and because I want to make myself happier. That's where the self-sustaining well comes from. And it's access to that well that this crazed freedom fest that, yes, takes the form of fire and nakedness and dancing and revelry. That's the steam that comes off the chemical reaction. But the chemical reaction is what exposes the truth, the heart, the oneness, the connection. Have you felt it? The reason why we do Hug Nation every week is to try to tap back into that, try to keep that passage open, because the culture, the status quo, tries to close that off. Because you don't act according to the rules when you have access to that. You don't consume in the same way. You don't respond to politicians in the same way. You don't make choices from that same fear-based story, external story-driven way. But that's why we got to practice. Whatever your practice is, hopefully this is a part of it, of keeping that source line open, staying aware of what brings you joy, finding a way to get there, even if it's not your job or your career, finding a way to give your gifts in some way. Thank you for letting me share what I feel like is one of my gifts. Thank you for being here, aligning, sharing, affirming, recalibrating in this vibration, which I feel right now. I feel like everything is perfect and getting better all the time. Thank you for being a part of it. I love you. Let's have a hug. Grab yourself by the shoulders. What a body this is. What a miracle. With so many systems working at every moment, whether you think about it or not, way beyond your conscious mind. Healing wounds, replenishing levels of chemicals and fluids, and so many processes that at best we can figure out what is happening. But to understand how or why, let's just be appreciative that the balances all work out, and we're allowed to be mobile and conscious and explore and appreciate this world as it's happening. And the stories might come out that there's them and us. But when we sit down with individuals from anywhere in the world, the story you will hear from them is that they would much rather hug you than hurt you. And so we practice this to remember, to remind ourselves that there is no them. That is just a story. There's a bunch of individuals doing our best, struggling with what we've been taught, trying to listen to our heart songs, trying to share our gifts, trying to allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough so that we can connect and feel that bliss of oneness. And so as we let our fears subside, we give permission to others. We make an environment a loving environment that allows our hearts to resonate in line with it, allows our songs to get louder so that we can start dancing to our own song in harmony with other songs. Letting go of where we're going and instead just being in the middle of the dance. We will land our last step when the music stops, and it will be perfect. Thank you. Let's take 3 breaths together, in through the nose, out through the mouth. On behalf of Grandpa Caleb and all the Love Warriors, happy Hug Nation. Thank you for being you and walking your path and shining your light. It is a gift to everyone. Thank you. I love you. Namaste.